Okay. All right. Here we are. Another example of LA Guitar Hang with my new friend Troy MacCubbin. For those of you who don't know, Troy is a very seasoned session guitar player who
Oh, you
records
better
and who
stop there.
tours. He's a film composer and he's also the host of one of the best guitar podcasts out there called Guitar Wank. How's it going, man? Nice to meet you, actually.
Yeah, man. Nice to see you too in the visual sense.
Yes, yeah. We've last week I had talked to Michael Ross, and Michael was introduced to me by one of my best friends, Val Lupescu, and Val hooked me up with Troy next. So like Val's hooking me up with all the big name guys now.
Man, Val is the man. I love Val, man. He's been he's just such a good friend. Such a great person, big heart, and great
Yep,
player, great musician.
yep.
He's been amazing in helping me sort of settle in here in Nashville and showing me the ropes and just a great guy. I feel very blessed that I got to meet him and become good friends with him.
Yeah. He's friends with everybody. Everybody loves Val.
Yeah, he's a badass, man. A badass
Yeah,
player, and
he sure
yeah,
is.
he's really cool guy. And we haven't caught up this week. I'm hoping to catch up with him real soon and hang with him again.
Yeah. Do you know his wife Jen too, right?
Yes, yeah, I
Yeah,
saw.
she's a sweetheart.
Yeah, we just saw each other the other week. We went to Rudy's jazz room down here in Nashville and saw one
Right.
of his friends play, and yeah, it was great. It was a great hang. But we didn't get to chat that much, but it was still really cool.
How are you like in Nashville? Since I mean, you didn't move there. You're kind of still living there in LA, right?
We're kind of here. We swapped lives for a little bit because we live in Los Angeles, but
Mhm.
we had a house out here in Nashville, and we'd keep coming out here and spend a couple of weeks here, and then we were Airbnbing a house out here and stuff. And every time we come out here, we'd be like, oh man, we want to stay a little bit longer, and and LA has been losing its luster for a while, so like many people, we were like, you know what, let's just go to Nashville and check it
Yeah.
out. We thought we'd just swap lives for a little bit. So we come out here and we've been here since September. We've been back and forth a bunch of times, but man, I gotta say, I love it. There's a reason why many people are moving to Nashville.
A
It ain't
lot
the
of people are.
weather, but
Yeah.
it's a great place, man. Everyone's so friendly and open. I think that's the biggest thing I've noticed, that just people are. I think there's more community here, I think, than Los Angeles, because LA is so spread out and everyone
So
has their
big.
pockets and stuff. You know what it's like.
Yeah.
I love LA. I'm always going to be a California guy as much as an Aussie guy again. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, I'm digging Nashville, and I've got potentially guys to play with out here and go gig, and I'm going to record an album out here and do a bunch of stuff. So yeah, it just seems to be the place to be at the moment. So it's great.
Yeah, a lot of people are moving there. I know a lot of people have left LA because they were, for many reasons, but they were fed up with like a lot of the restrictions and stuff. I always tell the people, like, come down to Orange County, man. We're like rocking down here.
Well,
It's like
yeah,
that's where I
it's
live.
whereabouts are you?
Huntington Beach.
Oh, yeah. There's no reason to leave that spot.
Yeah, everyone's like LA sucks, blah blah blah. I'm like, I don't know. Huntington Beach is pretty cool.
Yeah. No, that's an awesome spot to be in, man. That's a really
Yeah,
beautiful part of the world. But
yeah. We've got our racist hillbilly problems down here, but other than that, we're great.
well, I think we've got that everywhere in the world. But
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's an amazing part of the world too. So
yeah.
it's good to have options.
It
That's
is.
a good thing.
It is, man. It is. Yeah, I wanted to talk to you first for several reasons, just because I really enjoy your podcast and everything. And I feel like as I was, I don't do research for these things. I just shoot the shit, just kind of like how you guys do. Maybe you do research, I don't know, but you've done a hell of a lot of things. And I'm like, nobody asks Troy what he does. It's like Troy plays guitar too. Nobody gives a crap. I'm like, that's bullshit. Like, let's talk about Troy for a little while.
Well, I appreciate that, man. But when you're in a room or on a show with Bruce Foreman and Scott
I get
Henderson,
it.
I mean,
I get it.
It's funny because, you know, I grew up like a lot of us did, idolizing, and still do idolize, Scott and Bruce.
Sure.
Their playing and their musicianship and, you know, everything they've done. So when we started the podcast together, I kind of went into it just thinking, you know, man, I'm gonna just continue as fanboy
Yeah.
and keep that road, and not kind of bring myself in as a guitarist per se, because,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not, you know, I know where I'm at playing wise, and I've never wanted to be, you know, their territory anyway. But
Sure.
you know, it's just, I think it's just better for me just to sit back and just still be
I get it.
fanboy and ask the questions and dive deep and go into it. And I don't have to talk about myself because,
Yeah.
I've got those two. And plus there's pretty big egos in the room. So, you know, it's better that I just hang on to host position and just, you know, just pull out of them what I can and keep it going, you know. So,
Right. Well, I mean, I'd be the same way. I mean, I work really hard at trying to be the best guitar player that I can be. But if I was with those two, nobody would care what I did either. They'd be like, hey, I'll host the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, sometimes it does get a little frustrating. And I think we had one episode where it kind of was like, I mean, we're going on, we're 6 years into it. And Scott still kind of had no clue what the fuck I do. And
that happened on an episode?
He thought I worked for some company. He still had no clue. And it kind of shocked me, but that's kind of Scott, you know.
Oh man, I would have busted his balls on that, on the air for that.
I kind of did. It's like, dude, you know, you come to my house. I mean, you see where I live. You see I have a studio. You see I have all this amazing stuff. I don't think I'd be getting that kind of stuff if I was, you know, working for the man 9 to 5 or something. So he had no clue. He just really, he's kind of oblivious. But that's Scott. He's very self-absorbed and yeah, he's in the Scott's world. And you know what? Whatever, that's fine. But you know, that was just like, dude, you need to pay a little bit more attention, man.
Oh man, that's that. Well, by the way, for those of you who don't know what Troy is talking about, Guitar Wank is a very, very popular guitar podcast that has tons and tons of amazing musicians on there. I listen to it quite a bit. And I'll be honest with you, you guys are the reason why I mean, I don't really consider this a podcast per se. I just do it on my YouTube channel. I'm too lazy to actually put it on the podcast platform. So I put it on YouTube.
Right.
But anyway, it's so entertaining listening to you guys because there's different kinds of podcasts. I don't know if you've heard of the podcast High Action. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, my friends do that one and they do such a great job. Theirs is like so different because it's very, very organized. They do like, you know, have a lot of set questions. They'll play musical examples in between. They'll ask the guests about it. And it's great. It's fantastic. And you guys are like the opposite, where it's just like, you know, a free for all and the whiskey's flowing. And when I listened to you guys, I was like, I could do that. I'm not saying as good, but I'm like, I could do that because I love talking shit. And I was like, I'm going to start one.
Anyone can do it. I mean, we kind of went into it. And, you know, man, I look at the other podcasts out there and what people are doing nowadays. And, you know, it's a lot of it is a full-time job for some of these people. And
it is. And
hats off to them. But I haven't got the time. And, I just can't do it. You know, I can't put that time and effort into it. But I enjoy the hang. You know, and to hang out with Scott and Bruce. You know, Bruce has become like family to me. We've become really, really tight over the years. He's one of my best friends, and I feel so privileged to be able to say that. I mean, he comes and hangs out with my family for dinners. I mean, he's family, you know. Bruce's family. Scott and I we don't talk as much, but you know, I love Scott to death. He's funny as hell, and he's Scott Henderson. I mean, fuck.
I love his political rants. They're classic.
Yeah, I mean, he's nuts on so many levels, and I love him because he just doesn't give a shit, you know.
Yeah.
And that's who Scott Henderson is. But it's just been a fantastic hang with these guys over the years, and the people and the players we've got to meet and talk to. And I wouldn't be in that situation if it wasn't for Scott and Bruce.
Yeah.
But it come about, and it's been a fun ride, man. It's been really fun to see all these people and hang with them and talk and chat. And I think that's why the listeners enjoy the show, because it is just like sitting on the couch having a beer with your mates, and that's kind of what we want to try and do.
Yeah.
I think it's lost a little bit of its luster because of COVID and we're zooming everything, and
Yeah.
it's not the same as having everyone in the same place in the studio and sharing drinks and laughs and stuff like that. But we're pushing forward with it. There's been many times I was ready to give it all up. It's kind of like, I'm kind of done with this, and I'm not. It's just it wasn't as fun, not being in the studio together, drinking and having a good time,
Yeah. Yeah. It helps having guests, because I think if you have the same people a lot and you don't have guests, it's like you almost run out of things to say, because it's like, how many, you know what I mean?
Scott and Bruce repeat the same shit a million times, and I know it drives the listeners nuts, but it drives me nuts too. Yeah, that's why I love having guests on, because it definitely pulls different things out of Scott and Bruce all the time,
Sure.
That's
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's very entertaining, and I like the looseness of it, because like when I do this, or I'll do like little gear things or whatever, mine, like the production is so garbage compared to most of the people out there, but I just don't care enough to spend 8 hours on a goddamn gear video where like, no, I'm not going to make $1 from it. Like I'm I have a family, I teach, I gig, I practice. It's like, I can't put the time in, and I suck at technology. So it would take me, whatever would take you 2 hours to do would take me 10 to do, and I just can't do it,
Get it, man. And the podcast space is it's so flooded now with shows and that, which is fine, and that's great. But I think we're kind of doing it now as well, as since we started, it was just a hang,
Yeah.
It's done pretty well.
Sure has.
Money. I feel like it should have made money, but
yeah,
at the end of the day, I've got great friendships out of it, and man, I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And just have people like Robin Ford and Joe.
That's the thing. Like, you get to meet people. I don't know if you've met him. You probably met him in person, but like Robin Ford and all these people, it's like, it's amazing. It's great for you guys.
Yeah, I think that was one of our best shows when Robin come over to my house with a pizza, and Bruce bought a really expensive bottle of whiskey or scotch or whatever it was.
Yeah, you guys got drunk that night. It was pretty funny.
Yeah,
it was great.
Robin probably got more drunk than all of us, but It was awesome, man, because it was just raw, and that's what I like about it. I don't like the shows when it's, we have some guests on that is just they're protected. Everyone's careful about what they're saying nowadays, and less personality, and they're trying to be PC, and I give two fucks about all that stuff.
Yeah.
I want to have someone on there that will shoot the shit and get down and dirty and open up and just have a laugh. But everyone's got to do what they got to do. So
Well, I admire how you guys do that, because I'm like that off camera, like I like to shoot the shit and talk all kinds of crap, but I do have to be a little careful because I teach at like different schools and stuff. So, I got to be really careful.
Oh, for sure, man. And I tell you what, if for some reason my career went into the spotlight again, I'm sure it would last 0 seconds, because some wanker would go back and listen to Guitar Wank and say, well, Troy said this that was very, really offensive, and I'd be banned in a week. So
yeah, it's sad.
It's all good, whatever.
Hey, so I want to ask you about yourself. Like, okay, so you grew up in Australia, and I thought
you did my homework.
I did. Oh yeah, exactly. I do very little. So you're from Australia. You're obviously study guitar. I forget your guitar teacher's name. What was his name? The guy you studied with that was a big influence to you.
Tony Calabro.
Right. And so was your family musical? Did your parents get you into guitar, or did you do it yourself, or how did that whole thing
Yeah,
start?
no, my dad, as before I was born, my dad grew up playing in bands. He grew up, um, kind of playing the Shadows, the Everly Brothers, Roy Orbison, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And he was a decent guitarist, and I just grew up in that world. Dad was always playing gigs, always playing weddings and bars and at functions and blah blah blah. And I remember going to him when I was like 8. So I remember 7, 8 years old. I remember going to them and hanging out. And that it's kind of just progressed from there. I think I must have been around 10 or 11, maybe a little bit older, where he said, "Oh, you can make money doing this." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Oh yeah, if you learn these chords, you can sit in with us and I'll pay you some money." And I'm like, "Oh man, really?"
Can't
So
be that. That sounds pretty easy.
that was that was the carrot, man, that got me going.
Mhm.
Plus, I loved music and everything, and I want to play guitar, and I was enthralled with it. But that kind of got me over that hump of learning some of those tricky chords as a beginner and getting through that. And so my dad encouraged me. He was amazing. He was really, really cool. At the start, I had a little practice amp that I would use in his band, and I
Mhm.
did it right up the back. And I started lessons then with Tony, and within a year, my dad swapped amps with me. He had the little practice amp, and then I had the big amp, and I was up front. And he took the step
Nice.
back. So he was my first guitar teacher, supporter, hero, my first mentor that pushed me through it and kind of stemmed from all that.
Well, who are your favorite players? I'm sure you probably were listening to current rock and roll at the time too. Like, who are the guys you're into when you were a kid?
Oh man, I was a big all the Beatles, the classic, the Elvis, Roy Orbison, the Shadow.
Uh-huh.
My
So you're
dad,
into old stuff.
old stuff. My dad grew up with all the Shadow. He was a Shadows nut, so I learned a lot of the Shadows songs when I was a kid. And then I
Apache.
started getting lessons, and that's when my teacher Tony Calabro introduced me to guys like Bruce Forman and Joe Pass. All the jazz legends, and I was into that, but also the guys like Mark Knopfler. I was a big Dire Straits fan. Brian Setzer. Kind of all mainly the rock guys.
So you skipped the metal guys because that's what was big. I'm assuming you're the same age as me around, kind of. You skipped the metal guys in a way.
I did get it. I was in my first, well, not my first, but I had a rock band as a kid, like early 20s, must have been. It was, and we did all like Ozzy Osbourne and
Nice.
Metallica and all that kind of stuff. And I was completely out of my element. I was hanging with guys that were right into that stuff. So I definitely got into it and enjoyed it. But I
Mhm.
just noticed all those gigs we used to play at the pubs, and we'd pack it out. We had a really great run there for a bit. It was just all guys at our gigs,
It's heavy metal.
and it was hard rock. It was heavy metal, and there wasn't too many chicks. And even when the chicks did come, they weren't the kind of chicks I was after. But I kind of realized like, man, this stuff is good, but man, I'm in this for the chicks too. So
You got to get
I
in a disco band or a funk band.
I kind of went in a little bit of a different direction. I definitely wanted more women I wanted women in the audience, less guys less bikers in the audience. That
did
wasn't
did
my
playing
thing.
guitar ever get you women though at some point ever?
Oh man,
Really?
oh my
Good
god.
for you. Good for
Yeah,
you, man.
I did good. I had a good run. I
Good
gotta
for
say
you.
that's all I had going for me.
Man, I tell you, like, first of all, I've been married since I've been in middle school, so that's a whole other thing. I'm very, very lucky, man. I have an amazing wife, but like, I'm the kind of guitar player, no matter how well I played, women had zero interest in me from day one to now. Like zero. I'm like, what?
if
What did
you're,
I do wrong?
well, if you were married, that's probably they'll probably you didn't have your radar going. But man, yeah, no, I was working it.
Oh
Man, I was
man.
young, playing music, playing tons of gigs, and I was working it full time. You know, I was
Good for
doing
you.
my.
God bless you.
I
Yeah,
had a good time. I had a good run.
I talked to friends, man. My buddy Greg, that one of my best friends, he was a drummer in LA in the 80s on Sunset Strip. And oh my God, the stories he has. I'm like, we'll get drunk some nights. I'm like, tell me another story. Tell me again. I know you told me 3 times. Tell me again. I love that one. You
Yeah, it
know?
definitely, like all things, it runs its course, but it was a good time. Definitely a good time.
Yeah.
I got
That's
in a lot
cool. You get in a lot of trouble. That's good though. You're here to tell the tale.
of trouble. I survived. Yeah.
So at some point you playing in bands, you're gigging, you're getting better, and then you moved to LA in the 90s to pursue music further, correct?
Yeah, as a young kid, I had this infatuation with America and just travel. At an early age, I think it must have been around 8 or 9. I met a family friend visited, and he was from Canada. And I remember he was traveling a lot. And I remember sitting around the table listening to him talk. And I was just like, wow, this guy is just so interesting. He's got all these amazing travel stories. That's what I want to do. I want to travel the world. And as I got older, Musicians Institute come on the radar. And I was like, the choices were either go to Melbourne or go to Sydney, Australia, or think big and go to America. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to America. Screw it. I'm going to go study overseas and spend a year in Los Angeles at Musicians Institute. And that was the dream for quite a few years. I was teaching at the time. I had my own teaching school. I had like 40 students at the time. So it was
Cool.
teaching all the time, playing gigs. I was running amok. I was having a really good time in Australia,
Nice. Yeah.
living my young rock star life in my small town.
Yeah.
And then I up and moved to Los Angeles in '97. I visited in '95 to check it out, and then in '97 I pulled the pin and signed up for, I think it was a year, for Musicians Institute, or GIT. It was known early in the early days. And yeah, man, landed in Los Angeles on March 27th, '97.
Now,
And
coming from a small town in Australia going to LA, that must have blown your mind, huh?
I was shitting myself. I got massively drunk to get on the plane because I couldn't believe I was doing it. I think halfway across the ocean, I sobered up and realized what the hell I was doing. And that was it. I kind of forced myself into it. I had an apprenticeship a couple of years before that as a fitter and turner, which is like a machinist,
Yeah.
factory, and I was doing all that. And I was halfway through a 2-year apprenticeship in this factory, and I'm thinking, yeah, I can't do this. So I pulled the pin on that. I quit that and told them I'm going to go do music full time. And they thought I was an idiot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I started teaching. I got my own students, and then gigging. I saved up enough money and went to America, and then the real journey started.
And was
And
Scott there teaching when you were? I think he was there when you were teaching,
he
right? Oh,
was,
you were there.
yeah. Scott was one of my he wasn't one of my regular teachers, but I would go in and sit in his room and be like all the other students, completely nervous because he was such, some days he's a complete asshole. He's going to rip you apart, and other days
Yeah.
he's really cool. But I remember being in there one day with Scott, and I jumped up with him and we played some jazz standard. It's probably the best jazz I've ever played in my life.
Mhm.
I walked out of that room and everyone was like, dude, you killed that. I was like, wow, man, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to replicate that, but for that one
Yeah.
day with Scott, he pulled me up, and I felt like I was a bit of a jazz player there for a fraction of a time. So
And does he even know that you went to GIT?
no. He does, because I showed him the picture of that day. Actually, at that time I'd shaved my head. I had a completely bald head. And
Oh,
I got the
okay.
picture and I showed him the picture and he just laughed. I mean,
That's
he
nice.
didn't remember, but
Yeah.
I sure do. It was a good time, man.
Yeah.
I was only at that school for like 3 months, and then I pulled the pin. I was out. I actually wanted to quit guitar after that. It didn't.
Really? How come? What happened?
It was just a bunch of things all happening at once. I'd saved up, I think it was like 20 grand Australian to come to America. And at the time, while I was saving, the dollar in Australia was pretty well. Then as soon as I get to America, the Australian dollar goes to shit. And it basically, like 20 grand turned into 10 grand American. And I burned through that so quickly, just, not knowing anything and just doing all the wrong things at the time. Trying to find places to live and all that kind of stuff. So it was a stressful time. And then Musicians Institute was, it wasn't like the catalog or the videos I was sold on. It was very different. It was a lot of, for me at the time, it felt less musical. There was a lot of guys practicing all these scales, and just, there was these speed demons, and it was just, I don't know. I didn't find it inspiring at all at the time.
Yeah.
So I lasted 3 months, and then I was like, man, I don't even feel like picking up the guitar. And
That's
I was
wild.
out. I was bumming around Hollywood for, I don't even know how long, maybe 6 months, broke, trying to work out. And I didn't want to go back to Australia because, I'd spent the last 2 years in Australia bragging or talking about it to all my friends. I'm going to America to study music and make something of myself. 3 months into this course, I've realized this isn't for me. What the hell do I do now?
And then if you went back after 3 months, it'd be really embarrassing.
Yeah, I was too proud. I wasn't going to go back with my tail between my legs. So I was like, well, I guess I'm here for a while. So
at least you stuck it out.
I stuck it out, man. Just I almost feel a lot of luck, a lot of unlucky shit, but I managed to survive. I did a lot of crazy jobs, a lot of stupid shit.
Yeah.
But I got through it. I come out the other side, where I know a lot of people that I went to school with, they all went back to their homes in whatever countries or whatever towns they were from,
Well, it's like me, I'm from Miami area, and I moved to New York, and I literally lasted 4 months and I came right back. It was like very, very quick. I'm going to go to New York. I never told anyone that I was going to like be a big success because I knew what I was up against. But after 4 months, I'm like, yeah, I'm going back home.
I think the difference is there that, my country was on the other side of the world, and it wasn't, if I go back, I knew it was for good. I'd never be back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it was like, it was a pride thing. I'm not going back yet. I'm gonna hang out and see.
Even if I work at McDonald's or something, I'm not going back, right?
Yeah, it definitely got to that point. I was doing shitty jobs like that to get by, and I look back now, and I, because I gave up so much back in Australia, because I had, an awesome group of friends, lots of family, all the gigs in the world, making great money, teaching, playing gigs, just living a really good life. And I kind of pushed that aside to take the next step. Then you get to America and you're like, oh my God, this is nothing what I thought it was going to be like.
Yeah.
It sucks. And now I'm broke. Now I'm not making any money. Now I'm calling my parents as a 26-year-old guy, can I borrow some money? Because I'm so broke, So it was like the next 7 years of my life was just really shitty.
Wow.
Really broke. I couldn't afford my. I think I was paying like 200 and something a month, sleeping behind someone's couch, and I couldn't afford it. I was so broke.
Wow.
So, but hindsight, it worked out.
Yeah. So okay. So then what happened? So you're working shit jobs, whatever. Obviously, you didn't quit guitar because you went on tour with Tattoo and you tour with a lot of people. So like, what happened? Like, how did it turn around?
Really funny. I went. One of my best friends, and still one of my best friends, Mark Van Gool, who they now call the guitar whisperer.
Uh-huh.
Gool works with everyone, everyone from Bon Jovi to System of a Down, Linkin Park. I mean, he works with the biggest of the big now. He's
Mhm.
not only an amazing guitar player himself, but he's like we used to call him Baby Bradshaw because he would build racks and, he's just a genius in that world, But we lived together and we become really good friends. Mark's Canadian, so we connected, being both from the Commonwealth.
Mhm.
And he had an audition once for this girl that was on a soap, a TV, one of the soap shows, and she was putting a band together. So I was like, all right, I'll carry your gear. I'll come with you to this audition. So he goes to the audition and I've got Mark's gear and I'm helping him in that. So we get to the audition and so he plays the songs and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there and they're like, so who are you? And I get talking. And of course, the accent stands out. They're like, oh, wow, you're Australian. That's so cute and blah, blah. It's her mum and her. And then they're like, oh, wow, and back then they're like, oh, my God, you got such great blue eyes. Oh, my God, you look like Mel. You remind us of Mel Gibson. Do you play guitar? Next minute, they're like, well, why don't you audition if you play guitar?
They like your look.
I don't know any of the songs. They're like, well, just get up and play a little bit for us. And, so here I am with one of my good mates and he's going for the audition. And now I'm auditioning on his gear. And, Mark plays, he doesn't like to play anything that's easy. So he's, he had, I think, an Yngwie Malmsteen Strat at the time. And it was like playing a baseball bat with barbed wire on it. The strings were way off the fretboard. It was probably the worst audition of my life. I was horribly out of tune. It was disgusting. And there's no way I should have got that gig, but I got the gig.
So the guy who prepared for the gig lost it to the guy who didn't know the songs and who didn't play well.
Yeah.
Is that Hollywood or what?
And it was all, and I have to admit, back in my younger day, it was all because of this and the accent. They were just enthralled with the accent, the blue eyes. I guess I was probably a little flirtatious. And it worked.
Good for you.
I got the gig, and to Mark's disgust,
that's great.
Like, I'm not going to take you to another audition again. I got the gig. So I started playing with her, and we ended up doing the LA Music Rock Awards or something at the Palladium, I think it was, and we won Best Rock Performance or something, and so that was kind of a way into playing music again. So I did that for a little bit, and then I got in a band with one of the guys from the Beach Boys. I met him through, he was selling a guitar on Recycler, which is a newspaper back then you would sell gear on. This is before the internet, basically. And so I went to check out this guitar, and I didn't like the guitar, but me and the guy, Phil, we hit it off, and I'm like, well, what are you doing? He's like, well, I play with the Beach Boys. I took over from Carl Wilson.
Holy crap.
I'm like, oh my God. So we hit it off, and he's like, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm a guitarist. I'm looking for work. And he said, well, I've got an original band. Why don't you play lead guitar for me? I'm like, hell's yeah. So
he didn't even hear you?
No.
It's your look, man. See, you took advantage of your look. Good for you.
It must have been, but we just hit it off. And he was always touring with, the Beach Boys and stuff like that. And he was best mates with John Stamos and that crew. So for the next 2-3 years, maybe 2 years, I was hanging out with Phil and playing. I got to play with the Beach Boys once and hang out with all those guys. Hang out with John Stamos all the time, jam with John at his house, and kind of hang out with the Full House crew. We met all the crew because they would go to John's house, and I remember hanging out with Bob Saget and the other guy in Full House, and all jamming and getting drunk and high at John's place, and just having an amazing time. Like, kind of feel like you're living the dream, hanging out with these celebrities that you grew up watching on TV, and all of a sudden you're playing music with them and guitar and hanging out with them. It was pretty cool. It was a good time.
You gotta tell these stories on Guitar Wank. These are more interesting than the other guys' stories. They didn't
Yeah,
play with John Stamos and Bob Saget.
it was funny because I remember sitting at the bar with Bob Saget, and I just remember thinking, "Oh my God, this guy is nothing like the dad on TV." Because
No, he's
his
crazy.
jokes were so crude, and he was so funny, and he was really cool. He was a really cool guy, but fucking dirty as hell. He was really dirty. Um, and I can't think of the harmonica player on the show. What's his name? The comedian on the show, whatever I can't remember his name, but he was telling us stories because he was dating. It was just after he broke up with Alanis Morissette.
Mhm.
So Jagged Little Pill, most of those songs were about him. So and
Coulier, Dave Coulier.
yeah, Dave Coulier, yeah,
Are
Dave,
you kidding me? Really?
yeah. So we're talking to Dave, and we're like just picking his brain, like, dude, that song's about you, and he's like, yeah, I broke a heart,
Holy
blah blah.
shit. I can't
So
believe
yeah, so
that.
that was kind of cool. And I remember meeting, the babe on the show that was John Stamos's love interest.
Yeah, she's in jail now.
Yeah, Lori
Lori
Loughlin.
Laughlin.
I remember saying to John, I pulled John aside. I said, "Oh man, we're at his house. I remember it was at Christmas time. We're having a Christmas party, and they're all there, everyone there." And I said to him, I said, "Oh man, I had the biggest crush on her. Oh, I was so hot for her." And I remember John saying to me, "Oh man, she's batshit crazy."
Is she really? Wow, that's
Like,
funny.
"Oh man, don't worry about her. She's nuts." But yeah, it was a fun time. It was an interesting time. John, I gotta say, John is just a sweetheart of a guy. He's a great bloke.
Damn, man, you got some great stories. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, that was a good time, man. I had a good time. Definitely.
So from there, you got more gigs, more touring, more people, things like that. You went on American Idol, right? And Randy Jackson kind of hooked you up with Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah. After that, I got into an original. After the Phil's band, I got into another original band called Life, Death, and Giants.
Right.
And then we did an album, and tried to get signed. Really good stuff. Kind of Matchbox 20-ish kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Really great songs. That was a lot of fun. I pushed that for years, and then one of our best mates, his roommate was a publicist at Interscope. I'm hearing me tell these stories, and they're so cliche because I've heard all these stories from other people before that went on to actually, survive in the music industry. But she was a publicist at Interscope Records, and she was dealing with the girls from Tattoo. Interscope just signed Tattoo, and they were like the A&R guy, Kizenbaum. He was like, "Man, we're going to put a rock band behind these girls because we need to pump them up a little bit, give them some balls." So she was like, I know a bunch of guys. Let's go check them out. They're playing the Viper Room. So Interscope Records comes to the Viper Room, watches us play our original band, and they chose us. The keyboard player, Sven, who was my best friend, they chose him as the musical director. So he was like, "Well, you guys are in the band. Let's do this." So that was kind of our journey into the Tattoo experience with Interscope Records.
And then you guys, when you were in Tattoo, you guys toured the world probably. I think you were on Fallon and Leno and all those people, all the shows.
It was a crazy ride, man. It went, we're talking 2002. The end of 2002, we got into it. And then it wasn't going to happen. Then it was going to happen. It was very weird kind of situation. But 2003, it was all go for Interscope Records. They're like, "Right, you guys are going to do all the TV shows and then tour the world." Their album come out and became huge. So all of a sudden, we went through. All us guys in the band were actually all living together in Studio City in a shitty little apartment, and then all of a sudden, we're playing in one of the biggest popular bands in the world.
Wow.
And we're still massively broke. It's kind of oxymoron. We're in the biggest band in the world at the moment, but we're all massively broke. But yeah, we got to do the MTV Movie Awards. all these really cool shows, which it was amazing. It was incredible. You know, everything Jay Leno. And we used to sit around and watch Jay Leno every night with my roommates. And then like months later, we're on the show, on the set, you know, Jay Leno. So we were just over the moon, man. It was amazing. It was such a cool ride, you know. So that happened for a little bit. And then one of the girls got pregnant. So we were kind of out of a gig all of a sudden. And that's when I went and auditioned. I got to audition with Kelly Clarkson, auditioned for Randy Jackson, got that gig. Then that gig, basically what happened was Kelly's guitarist, who was another Texan, I can't remember his name right now, he went on to Enrique Iglesias to play with him. So Kelly needed a new guitarist. I auditioned, I got the job. So 3 days into rehearsals with Kelly, I get a call from management and they say, yeah, Kelly's old guitarist that went to Enrique, that didn't work out. He wants his old job back. And because him and Kelly are good mates, of course, you're the new guy, you're going to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was like, shit, you know. So they said to me, well, Clay Aiken needs a guitar player. Do you want to play for Clay Aiken? And I was like,
no. You're like, but yes.
I'm not playing for Clay Aiken. I'm not playing that shit. And my next door neighbor got that gig. He ended up doing that gig. And it was so funny because obviously Clay Aiken went to #1 in America.
Right.
And, at the time. So he was touring everywhere and I was, you know, in my apartment doing nothing.
Oh, man.
But then I thought, well, who's got Enrique if that guy lost Enrique? So I had a good friend that knew Richard Fortas, who used to play with Enrique or just before played with Enrique. And Richard Fortas is now, he's Guns N' Roses guitarist. He's been with Guns N' Roses for, many years now. I think he just joined Guns N' Roses when I got Enrique, but he basically called Enrique without even knowing who I was. He called the MD and said, hey, I've got a guitarist for you. This is Troy MacCubbin, he'll do it. So I got a call from Enrique's MD and said, hey, you want to do this gig? You know, it pays 25 a week. Come and do Enrique. And I was like, I mean, I was so broke, man. I'd lost so many gigs. I was down and out. And then I get this call and I'm like, oh, awesome. You know, 2,500 a week. This is amazing.
Wow.
So I had to learn like 30 tunes in a week, you know, just freaking out, trying to cram all this music in my head. And they flew me to Miami and I spent a week in Miami rehearsals with Enrique and the band and all amazing players. I felt totally out of my element. These guys were just, you know, the cream of the crop. And here I am trying to learn 30 songs in 7 days and remember all this shit. And it was an interesting experience, to say the least.
Yeah.
So
that's some pretty heavy gigs, man.
Was, man. You know, I felt like it's so funny because you're in the moment and you're trying to keep it all together. But there's that kid inside of you just going, oh my God, look what I've achieved. You know, you're just kind of freaking out. You suddenly you're playing with the big boys now, you know, you're in amongst it and you can't believe it. You know, you're staying in the best hotels, you know, everything is what you imagine. And you're constantly saying, I don't deserve this, or how did I get this? And, you know, but yeah, everyone in Enrique's band would say to me, mate, don't get too comfortable because Enrique goes through guitarists like he goes through underwear. And I'm like, oh, God. Really?
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I mean, you know, so I'm trying to do a good job. And I think it was the stage manager. He just did not like me for some reason. This little Latin guy, he had it in for me. I remember, and Enrique just started dating his wife, Anna Kournikova, the tennis player. The Russian tennis player, good girl. So I remember we went out one night, all of us, to a bar in Miami, and we're all hanging out. And I get talking to Anna Kournikova. Of course, she's Russian, and I've just played with the Russian girls Tattoo, so we have a connection. And she just got back from the Australian Open, playing tennis. I'm Australian. We have another connection. So
Right.
we're just chatting and having drinks, and we're just shooting the shit. And I mean, she's stunning in person,
Yeah.
just absolutely stunning. So I'm sitting across from her, and I remember just like thinking, wow, this girl's so awesome. And then out of the corner of my eye, I look across and I see Enrique sitting at the corner of the bar by himself.
Uh-oh.
And he kind of gave me a look like, not cool, dude.
Oh boy.
And I remember thinking, nah, it'll be right. It'll be right. Oh, I remember we were doing I think a shoot the next day for one of the internet live on Latin internet radio or something, or TV show. And we're playing his big song Hero, and I'm doing the acoustic solo there, and I'm playing, and I'm looking at him. I'm kind of giving Enrique winks like, man, I got your back. I'm playing, you know. And he looked straight through me. Like he gave me a look like no expression, just deadpan look. And I just knew. I'm like, I'm gone. That's it.
Wow.
And at the end of it, it was so funny because the musical director and I, Tony Bruno, we got along great. He was such a really cool guy. He said, all right, fantastic job. We'll see you in New York in a couple of weeks for the world tour. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be amazing, you know? And he's telling me all the fun stuff we're going to get up to, and really talking it up. So I fly back to Australia to get my visa and all that immigration stuff in order. So I'm telling everyone, you know, I've got Enrique Iglesias. I'm going on a world tour. Life is wonderful.
You're everybody's hero in Australia.
Yes, I'm the big man. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, Troy, you did it. You know, you went to America and you've done well.
Yeah.
But as soon as I land to Los Angeles, I get home, I check my email, and it says, Troy and Enrique and managements. You know, we're going to check out this other guitarist. And my world just crashed. It was just like, you know, devastating. You just, so many highs, and then you just,
Didn't you expect it a little bit though, because of that one night with the wife and he's looking at you? You didn't have that in the back of your mind like that it could happen?
Well, you know, there was other things too. I remember Enrique had this new song that went, it was kind of like dun 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 dun. It was like the same intro to MTV back then, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. With the spaceship.
Yeah. So, and this is a new song. You know, I'm 30 songs into it. All my songs are running in my head. I'm just trying to hold it together. And they're like, Troy, right, you got to start this song because it starts with your guitar. The drummer counts it off. And what does Troy play? I play the MTV theme. Not even close to what the song is about. So they stop it. They're like, and this little manager guy is freaking out. Like, Troy, what did you do? And I'm like, dude, I'm just, you know, come on. I'm trying to get all these songs in my head. So that didn't help. That was another pin in the cushion.
Oh, geez. So, that sounds like a nightmare.
I got the ass from that. And but, you know, it made me feel all right because apparently he had Greg Howe, you know, Greg Howe, the guitar player.
Oh, yeah. He's a killer guitar player.
I mean, he's a monster guitarist. Mm-hmm. And he got fired too. So, you know, what are you going to do?
That whole world, you know, it's like, you don't even know what they want. You know, they change their minds. It's totally out of control. It really is.
I'm not a good side man because I'll say too much. I'll speak up when I think shit's wrong or something's wrong, you know?
Yeah.
But, so anyway, after that, I seriously went into depression. I was just so depressed. I was so down and out. I thought finally I had money and now I'm back to broke. And I'd given up all my work. I was a personal trainer at the time. So I had all these clients. So I'd given them all up. I'd let the business go. I'm like, I'm off on tour, the world, I'm set. This is great. And then all of a sudden it's all gone. I've got no clients. I've got no job. I'm back to nothing. So I end up going to Germany for 6 months with my roommate, and I sat in his basement on his piano writing songs for 6 weeks. I think it was 6 weeks, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we come back to LA, and that's when Tattoo picked up again, and then it kind of went off again. It took off, and we toured we toured the world for like a couple of years, 2-3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, like playing a lot of TV, a lot of, I did Kazakhstan in the middle of winter. I did
That,
Russia,
wow.
Latvia, Riga, all through Eastern Europe, all of Europe, Latin America, Asia, Japan, Korea. It was incredible, man. Like I got to achieve the dream of touring the world in basically fantastic hotels and limousines and playing some pretty cool gigs. So
Wow.
it was pretty awesome. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then it all fell apart, because tattoo fell apart basically.
And the
Yeah.
music industry is always like crazy. You know what I mean? Who the hell knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, you never know, but over the years, I got to play with some pretty amazing people. I did a stint with Wilson Phillips for 3 years, and that was
Right.
really cool. So I'm playing all Lukather and Landau parts on their stuff, and
Can't beat
you know,
that.
hanging out with kind of rock and roll royalty, the Wilson Phillips crew. The girls were fantastic, and that was just a great group of people, and I got to make some really great friends in that band. And then I did a little bit with Natalie and Bruglia, and yeah, man, it's kind of been a hell of a ride.
You've done a lot of shit, man. That's a hell of a lot. It really is.
I've survived. I got through it.
Now you're doing, in the past several years, you're doing trailers for major movies. So how the hell did you get into that?
When tattoo was like, we were into it, and one of the girls again got pregnant. And on that time we were off Interscope Records, and now we were under Russian management, which is another story. It's like working kind of for the mob, but they don't kill anyone. It was just very interesting.
Wow.
I spent way too much time in Russia. I gotta say, I'm not a fan, because I just
That's a whole other conversation. Russia.
Yeah,
I'd like to hear about that, but yeah.
That's another one for sure. But the amazing thing was, back then management were like, look, the girls are going to be probably not doing anything for at least a year. You guys go do what you want, and we'll pay you a retainer. So I was on $1,000 retainer for a year, which is unheard of now.
$1,000 a week for a year?
Yeah, for a year.
That's pretty good.
That's a heaven. So
wow.
At that time, the girl I was dating, her best friend was dating this other guy, and we all went camping together, and he was a trailer editor at a company, and we become mates. And he was like, man, why don't you start doing music for my trailers? And I knew nothing about it. And we kind of started Alloy Tracks together, and he showed me the ropes and brought me in and introduced me to all the right people. So I was doing all that, and then Tattoo started up again, but I was still doing the business. And this is in 2007. And then he got so busy with his work, he was like, man, you do Alloy Tracks. I'm too busy with my job. We'll still work together, but you just run it. So I just took off on Alloy Tracks and kept building it and kept working, and kind of working crazy long hours and creating tracks and learning, and kind of building a studio and all that kind of stuff. And then I kind of went from there.
Wow. Because that's like a whole other skill set. I mean, like, I've been playing guitar my whole life and gigging and recording, but like doing that kind of thing is such a different skill set. I mean, how the hell I guess you just did it, right? You just did it and you figured it out.
Yeah, it was just out of necessity, and just I just had really great people that were supporting me at the time. I got in with a really group of, basically the company that he worked for, I became friends with all of them, so they would help me on my cues and my tracks and sound design and all that kind of stuff, and steer me in the right direction. And it was a huge learning curve. And I think for the first 5 or 6 years, I was doing everything just me, getting sometimes my friends or other composers do a little bit, but mainly I was doing everything. And then I kind of got to a point where it's like, man, I can't cover all these bases because you just not enough time, and I'm missing out on work. So I started bringing on other composers, and then it just got bigger and bigger, and by that point, I'd already sort of built myself a reputation in that trailer world as having good tracks and good sound design. I'd done a lot of hitting the pavement, smoozing, meeting people, introducing myself, getting out to all these companies, dropping off drives back then, because, it wasn't, that was the thing you did. You drop off, hard drives with all your stuff on it, hoping they'd check it out and use it. And then I started bringing on composers, and then I started to take a step back because I was kind of managing all these composers and all these different jobs. It wasn't just me on one job. Now I'm like 5 jobs, and I've got all these composers working. And you're sort of becoming kind of producer. You're still doing marketing. You're running the business. You're dealing with the music supervisors and the editors. Then you're dealing with the composers. So you're kind of doing everything that you don't want to be doing sometimes, because you still want to compose. And that was a big thing that I kind of had to let go, because there wasn't enough time for me to get in on a lot of these jobs and compose, because too much work is coming in, and my other composers have got it. Just it wouldn't have made business sense for me to jump in as well, because then everything else stops. So I kind of had to take a step back and kind of pick and choose when I could jump in and do work, and which is now it's a fantastic place to be, because I have a family, and time is valuable, and I don't want to be sitting in front of the computer for hours and hours composing anymore. I want to enjoy life and do what I want. And so now I get to juggle that and compose when I want, jump in on jobs when I want, or if not, I have amazing composers who help me out as well. So
Man, it's a pretty amazing story, because like I said, it's so different than playing in a band live. I mean, it's a totally different skill set. That's pretty amazing.
Man, it just I think back now, that one camping trip changed my life.
Isn't that how it works though, right?
It was huge, and I remember the exact moment him and I, his name's Chester, and he's still one of my good friends to this day. But I remember him turning to me and said, "Man, why don't you just start making music for me? I'll show you what I need." And I was like, I was always a yes guy. Yeah, let's do it. I'll do it.
Wow.
And that changed my life, because I have so many friends to this day that are still struggling to the next gig, and they're amazing players, and it's got nothing to do with ability, but just they haven't had those openings. So I was.
But you had the balls to say yes to that, because a lot of people would have been like, well, I don't really do that. It's not my thing, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for me, it was probably more of the situation, because I was on a retainer. I had a year off. I didn't have anything on my calendar. And I was like, well, what else am I going to do? And it was a perfect time to start a business. And really within that year, I was kind of paid to start my business. Which is amazing looking back on it now. I was so lucky. But I think I was at least smart enough to know that this was a good opportunity to jump in. I wish, knowing what I know now, I wish as soon as I got to America in '97, I wish I had jumped straight into Trailer World, because that's where all the money's at, But yeah.
But you had fun touring though.
Yeah, I wouldn't give that up for anything. It was an incredible time. I look back at the videos and I still can't believe I got to do all that. It was incredible. So endorsements. I was endorsed with Hamer guitars and Gibson and Orange amplifiers and Line 6 and TC Electronic. I mean, I was getting all the great endorsements, Taylor guitars, all the free gear, the free guitars, all the amazing stuff. It was awesome. It was really cool.
That is pretty cool.
But I quickly learned that sideman job that's a tough gig. you just never know when you're not going to have a gig anymore, because, you know, maybe an eyebrow is not looking the right way it should one day, or you say the wrong thing, or just record label decides you're not needed anymore, you know. So it's such a, I didn't like having my future in the hands of other people that really didn't give a shit about me, you know.
Right, right.
So that was really good to find my own feet and find my own business.
And what are some of the like the major movies that you've done trailers for? I know you've done several, but what are a few of them?
Oh man, we had an amazing, we had one of our best years last year, which is incredible within this climate which we're all dealing with. Yeah, the fact that everyone's stuck inside watching movies has been kind of an asset to my business.
Mhm.
We did the Batman, some of the Batman stuff, the first Batman trailer, we did that with the Nirvana song, Something in the Way. Man, we've done everything from Godzilla. We've done a bunch of stuff. We work with Netflix all the time, and Hulu and Amazon. Looks like we just scored the new Jurassic World trailer that's coming out soon, or sometimes this year, which is a huge one. It's funny, I got a call from a guy the other day, just 2 days ago. We're working on what's the project we're working on? Stranger Things, the new Stranger
Okay.
Things, right?
Okay.
Which is a big trailer. It's gonna, I mean, we've been waiting for Stranger Things to come back. All my kids, we're all excited about Stranger Things, and
Yeah.
Netflix we're doing that. So we've been working on the trailer for that, and they used one of our, they hired us to do one of the trailerizations of a song, and we did a Journey song for it. And so I get this phone call, and I'm talking to this guy, and I thought it was one of the heads from Netflix. I'm thinking, oh, well, you know, okay, so what do you want to know about the track? And he's like, man, you guys did such an amazing job on this track. I really love it. I never sign off on this stuff, you know, but I'm going to sign off on this track because it's amazing and I love what you guys did. And I'm like, wow, this is great, fantastic, you know. And I'm just thinking, Netflix head giving me a compliment. This is great. And before he hangs up, I just said, who is this again? I didn't get you who it was. What do you actually do? He said, it's Steve Perry. I'm the singer. I'm the singer on the song of Journey.
Wow. That's cool.
So I'm like, oh my God. I'm talking to Steve Perry for the last 20 minutes. I had no clue. So I was like, Steve, oh my God, I'm such a fan, man. You're a badass. You're such a legend. So we went and talked on for another 20 minutes, and I picked his brain, and he was just such a lovely guy. But it was awesome. You know, it's like, when does Steve Perry call you? You know,
That's crazy, man. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
that's pretty cool. So, you know, Alloy Tracks has been going since 2007. So
Yeah.
how many years is that? That's 11, 12 years or something?
Yeah.
I'm no good at math, but we've established ourselves as, I think, one of the top trailer music companies in Los Angeles, or in California, world, or whatever. You know, we're doing all the big stuff. Yeah, we're doing all the big stuff at the moment. We've set ourselves up where we're a part of. When they need stuff, they call on us, which is amazing. I feel so blessed, so blessed.
And then you do Guitar Way. Where did it all go wrong?
Yeah. You gotta try whatever you do. You gotta have holes in your career. And
how did that happen?
It's funny. I had a really good Aussie singer, a famous Aussie singer, staying with me, who's in a band called Bachelor Girl. Tanya Doko, her name is, and she's an amazing singer. She's in a band called Bachelor Girl.
Mm-hmm.
Had a huge hit around the world with buses and trains, and she was staying with me, and we're hanging out, and she said, oh, you got to come and see this singer who's one of my idols. I love this girl. She's another Aussie singer. You got to come and meet her. And I was like, all right, let's go. So we went into a gig, and it was in Beverly Hills, and we're sitting there watching the show, and I'm like, wow, that guitarist is really fucking good. I mean, this guy knows his shit, you know. And I had no clue who it was. And I went up and got introduced to Danielle DeAndrea, the singer, who's become a great friend. And I said, who's the guitarist? And she's like, that's Bruce Foreman. And I'm like, holy shit, no way, that's Bruce Foreman. I grew up with Bruce Foreman. I'd had his cassettes, you know, Tony Calabro had implanted into my brain that I need to know who this guy is.
Right.
Like, oh my God. She's like, we got to meet him. So I met him, and then I got invited to one of his gigs at him playing Cowbop over in Burbank at one of their venues. And we just hit it off, man. I mean, Bruce is he's just fucking amazing cat. He's just an incredible man, you know. I love him.
He's a character.
He's a character. I love him. And it was funny because at the time, I was subconsciously wanting a mentor, or, you know, someone I could kind of hang out with and look up to and be taught the ways and all that kind of stuff. And I think sometimes you bring that into your world, you know, just by thinking about it all the time. And, you know, I wish that would happen. I'd like to meet someone like that. And then Bruce becomes a huge part of my life, and we become mates. And we went to breakfast one day because he said, I'm good friends with Scott Henderson. Come to breakfast. We always go to breakfast. I'm like, okay. And we went to breakfast, and I just fucking laughed for the whole time I was with him, you know. One, I'm hanging out with two of my heroes, guitar heroes, and the shit they were saying was just hilarious. They're both funny as hell. And I walked out of there that day. I said, oh man, I wish some of my mates, my musician friends, could hear these conversations. Hilarious. I think Bruce turned around and said, oh, we should do a record it or something, or do a podcast. I'm like, yeah, let's do a podcast. He's like, let's do it. And that was it.
Wow.
Guitar was born. It was that simple, you know. And just Bruce is, you know, if it wasn't for Bruce, I'd never have done it, you know, or if Bruce wasn't in the picture. But once he gets an idea under his hat, you know, he's going to run with it.
Yeah.
And he's a pushy bastard, and he gets shit done.
Yeah.
And he pushed me. He's like, let's do this. Are you doing it? Are we working on it? Let's do it. And we just did it. And it was fun, man. I mean, it was really fun in the early days where we'd just shoot the shit and just laugh our asses off, you know.
I laugh listening.
Yeah. It's fun. I mean, there's been quite a few episodes that never made it to air, but man.
Really? Not good
few.
enough or what?
There's been arguments. I remember there was one time there was a really good argument, and Bruce wouldn't let me put it up, but maybe it'll go up one day. But I gotta say, man, it was a hell of an episode. We got
you and him, or him and Scott?
Kind of all of us. All of us, I think, had a shitty day. We had a guest on at the time. It was Troy Dexter. He's a good friend. He's the keyboard player in Wilson Phillips, who's also an amazing guitar player. He's just one of these smart asses who can do everything. But we had Troy on as a guest, and Scott wasn't. We were just, everyone was in shitty moods. I actually think now that episode might have got lost too because of a hard drive issue or something. But I just remember Bruce cracked the shits because I think Scott started to get political, and everyone was just at their wits' end, and it got heavy, man. Like it got angry. I think the angriest we've ever got with each other. But the amazing thing that came out of it, the only reason why I was so bummed about not posting it, because Bruce, he went on, not a rant, he just said this kind of speech about why he was doing it and why he was doing music and all that. And it brought me to tears, man. It was so powerful.
Heavy. Yeah.
And so heavy and deep. And it was amazing. Like he was walking out the door, and I was like, come, Bruce, sit down, man, relax. And he sat down and he just blurted out this speech, and it was beautiful, man. It was really heartfelt and heavy, and it just like, whoa, you know. But yeah, that was one that we never made to air, unfortunately. I'd love to find it. If one day it may be if I can find it, it will go up. But I don't know how much of it is there because we did have a hard drive issue at the time, and we lost some stuff. But yeah, we've had some episodes where it was like, we can't put this up. It's too bad.
There was one where they got into it pretty good. I mean, it wasn't like dark or anything, but it was like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but something like Henry Scott was saying like jazz guys can't play open on one chord, and Bruce was like, yeah, we can. Do you know what I'm talking about? And it was like, it got pretty heavy, and I was like, Jesus Christ. But it was like, it wasn't like they hated each other, because I have buddies where we get in knockdown, drag out fights like that too. But in the end, who gives a shit? Nobody cares. But it was like, for a moment, I was like, wow, this is like good. Do you know what I guess you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know the exact episode. I think sometimes Scott will say shit. Well, a lot of times Scott will say shit without really thinking, or it doesn't come across probably what he's trying to say. He just blurts it out, and that pissed off Bruce. He was pretty pissed. He was ready to go, Scott. I think at that time he was pretty much done with the show at that point too.
Wow.
But
it's entertaining though. It's like Jerry Springer.
Yeah, a little bit. I think Bruce is just such a he's a wise motherfucker, man. He's wise, and as with Scott, but sometimes they clash, but there is a love. Each of them have a massive love for each other and respect. I mean, God, they're such badasses, man. When I see them play, I'm that little kid. I'm that student again watching them. I mean, I always will be a student.
Yeah.
I'm watching those guys and just awe, and just, I'm not even they're on another planet, man. They're on another planet to where I'm at. And that's fine, because I'm not, as much as I studied jazz for a long time and classical and learned to read, and I did a lot of theory and all that, that wasn't my heart. My heart was, I'm more of a Dire Straits, Brian Setzer, singer-songwriter, Tom Petty. Give me a big G chord with loud amps, rock and roll,
Sure.
I want chicks in my audience. Bruce and Scott don't have chicks in their audience. I'm still wanting chicks in my audience.
Yes.
So,
don't play jazz.
I'll play jazz at home in my bedroom for me. But But
well, I know what you're saying about those guys. I mean, you have two brilliant guys, and they definitely love each other. It's obvious, but they're gonna butt heads once in a while. But that's okay. I mean, they both can handle it. They care about each other. And, we obviously we don't want them to fight all the time, but if they do, it's entertaining to an extent, and it's cool. Like, I mean, people are going to argue. We all argue with each other, when you have different aesthetic approaches, they're going to clash occasionally, which is totally cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's been interesting being the host, and sort of I've learned to trying to maneuver the show and keep the conversation going, but sometimes it's really hard, man, when they're sometimes they both get on rants and they repeat the same stuff, and I know they're repeating, and I'm trying to move it forward, and it can be tricky, and you're dealing with egos. And that's who they are. I mean, that's why who they are, maybe because they have such egos, and you're always dealing with some of that,
But so the three of you guys are entertaining, though. That's the thing, is not just those two. You're equal to them in the entertainment value, I think, Yeah,
I think if I come at it with, I was trying to prove to them I was worthy as a guitarist, or I think if I had that attitude, or if I was trying to do that, it might be a different show. But I kind of, from early on, I was just like, man, I'm going to stay fanboy on this, and, keep my kind of guitar playing and my music kind of separate out of it. And, they don't ask. They very rarely ask a question, but it's, no one's there to be listening to me anyway, for the most part. They're there to listen to those guys, and that's why I'm there. I'm there to listen to those guys, all the guests that come on, So,
Yeah.
except for this one where people are listening to my BS, but there's the
No,
time
but you
and
know what? I don't know if any of your fans are going to hear this because you have a much bigger audience and I have barely any audience. I'm just new at this, but if anyone wants to know your story, they're going to hear it here, which is pretty cool because I think you have a pretty damn good story. You've done a lot of stuff, man. More than most people have done.
it's been a hell of a ride, man. I look back and it's been amazing. I mean, I've achieved, my big dreams of being paid as a touring guitarist and see the world and, play big headlining shows. I got to do all of that. I got to have all the great gear and it's been amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
and, there's so many great players out there. It's even more scarier now, but it's so scary how many great players out there. But at the end of the day, that's not the end, the end all and be all. There's way more to it. There's you got to have more of a package and you've got to be able to present it. You've got to be able to work with people. You've got to be able to, look good on stage. You got to be able to hang. You got to be able
Yeah.
to travel well. You got to be able to deal with silly, stupid situations. And some people just can't deal with that.
Right.
So there's all different levels to all of this stuff. And, you got to find your own path, I guess, to all this stuff.
Well, there's different, like I said, there's different skill sets for for what you do, your business with the trailers and all that kind of stuff. There's a million ripping guitar players out there that maybe might play at a level that you admire or whatever, but they maybe can't do what you do. Maybe they can't, maybe they don't have that skill set.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone, if, once you set your mind to something, everyone can learn whatever they need to learn or want to learn. But man, I kind of fell into this stuff. But I think I was just open, I was maybe not open. I was desperate, to find a career and, to have something for my own, I'm so glad I did because I was so sick of being broke. And, that's hard, man. I can't even imagine what people have gone through in the last couple of years, just like being broke and dealing what we've had to deal with. That's next level shit. I can't even imagine dealing with that. So I feel so blessed that, I'm now a part of my life where, the business is great. I've managed to diversify and I've got an amazing missus who is extremely talented in what she does. And, we've got other businesses and we work together and it's, you got to feel lucky. Yeah, I feel very blessed.
What does your wife do?
She's Sarah. She's she used to be an actress. So cliche, a musician and an actress, cooking up in LA.
Who'd have thought?
You never thought it. I swore I'd never end up with an actress, and this is what happened. But she was an actress, and then she got out of that. And now we got into real estate together, and then we were doing that. And basically, she got into the vacation rental market, and we've got a bunch of vacation rentals that we run and work on, and properties that we to work with. So she's, so I've got my business, she's got her business. We come together and work together as well, and it's and I'm at a place where I can kind of do more of what I want to do as opposed to what I have to do, which feels amazing. I mean, it's incredible,
And you're gonna do a new record.
Yeah, man. It's all Nashville. It's so funny because everything's been. I kind of went into last year. I got a call from an old friend from that I hadn't spoken for 10 years, and he has a company that does a lot of TV placements, and he placed some of my original songs on TV over the years, in various TV spots and movies and stuff like that. And he called me out of the blue to catch up, and we hadn't spoken to probably 10 years. And he's like, "Man, I really would love more tracks from you because your batting average was really good, for the stuff that you
Mhm.
gave me. We did really well. And it was just at that time that I just started kind of getting itchy feet about writing and recording again and doing my own music. That was last year. And then Nashville come up and we arrived here, and there's something, there's something in the air here if you're open to it, I think. But straight away, I just felt like writing, and I was going through tunes. So I've got about 30 songs that I've written over the years that I'm going through, and I just thought, what a better place to do it than Nashville. There's so many
Yeah.
great studios and producers. And before I try to do all of that kind of stuff by myself, write, record, produce, do it, and I'm just not that cat. I wish I could be that guy, but I'm not capable of that because I get in my own way. So I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to be the artist, and I'm going to write, perform these songs as good as I can, and get a producer and record an album.
Mm.
So and
That's
do it.
great, man.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Have you started yet, or you're just in the planning stages?
I've started just working the songs up, going through the songs, picking out what's good, what's crap, and just sort of sifting through what I have and working the vocals back up, singing and playing and trying to arrange. I want to get them to a spot where I'm really confident with them, and then go find a producer and find someone that can have a listen and go, yeah, right, yeah, we need to work on this, or this is shit, or this is great, or whatever, and go
Yeah.
from there. And then, man, I want to get cats that play amazingly and go play with them and do some stuff.
Well, that sounds great, man. I hope that that works out well for you. And I'm looking forward to hearing it. You have what's the name of the project? You ever have a name for it already?
I don't know. I've been going back and forth. I didn't want to use my own name because I just didn't.
Mhm. Yeah.
I had some names I was throwing around, but yeah, I don't know yet. That it's a work in progress.
Okay. Okay.
I like not being in my own name. I like it to be something else.
I hear you. I hear you. So I don't want to take up your whole night, but I really appreciate your time. I always love talking a little bit of gear with people. Like, what's your favorite gear right now? I mean, I'm
Uh,
sure you have a ton of shit, but what are some of your favorite things you're using?
well, it's interesting. I tried to stop myself from buying gear recently.
Mhm.
The last few years, I really kind of backed off on that.
Uh-huh.
And as a guitarist, we all know how long that lasts.
Yeah.
Um, Basically, when I come to Nashville, I brought a bunch of gear out here, but I was looking for an amplifier, and it's like, I won't bring an amplifier. I'll just buy one out here. So I started looking around, and man, that's not an easy thing to do, is buy a new amplifier nowadays, because there's so many great amplifiers out there. You're like,
Yeah.
you try one. And we went back to LA for Christmas, and I've got a 63 Vibroverb
Mm.
original, 63 Vibroverb original, which is a rare amp to have apparently. And
Yeah.
I plugged it in, and I've had this amp. My dad actually bought this amp for $50. He got it $50 in Australia from this guy that was unloading it. And I kind of scored it and brought it to America, and I've had it for all these years. And I liked it, but I was like, I've played better. I've got a Dr. Z, a DB4 at home,
Mm.
which I love. It's like a Vox on steroids. And then I've got an Australian amplifier called Olbrich, which is kind of like a hotted up Marshall Plexi kind of vibe.
Mm.
Sounds amazing, it'll rip your doors off. But I plugged in this Vibroverb recently, and all of it, I just thought, what does this sound like on 10? And I was like,
That's
what?
that's the sound.
I was like, oh my God, I had the amp all the time. The whole, I had it. I didn't know how to friggin' use it because I just never turned it up. Turning the amp up full and using your volume knob on your guitar to get the clean and your dirty. Because I never
Right.
kind of did that. I was always a pedal guy, set your amp nice level and then dirty it up with pedals and that. So I found that. So I recently sent that out here to Nashville, and that's getting checked out by a local amp guru to make all pretty and smig and perfect. And so that's one of my faves at the moment. And I just this is a bad one. I was surfing on Facebook, and I come across this beautiful picture of a Duesenberg Star Player guitar.
Mhm.
It was gorgeous. I'm like, holy shit. And I fell in love. It's like, oh God. I was like, oh man, I got to check one of these out. So I went down that rabbit hole, and then I went and played them, and I was like, so all the reviews are exactly right. They're amazing. They feel incredible. Yeah, so I bought a new Duesenberg Star Player, which is it's an incredible guitar, really cool. So that's one of my favorites. I got a Crook Tele, which is
wow. I was just listening to
yeah.
an interview with him the other night with that guy. He sounds like a fantastic maker.
It's Bob, right? Is it Bob?
It was this show. I think it was True Tone with that guy Zach something.
Oh, Zach. Yeah, Zach Charles. I love Zach.
Yeah. It was a great interview, and I heard the name Crook, but I don't know much about him. He seems like the
Crook,
shit.
He does all Brad Paisley's guitar.
Right, Paisley.
And I love Brad. I love what Brad does. I think he's such a badass. So I bought the Crook. I saw one online, and actually Brad was promoting it. Brad Paisley was like, "Oh, you got to check this Crook out." And I saw it, and I reached out to Mr. Crook, Bob Crook, and I think it's Bob or Bill Crook, and and I reached out to him, and he made me such a good deal on it because we knew kind of a lot of the same people. So I bought that Tele, and it's amazing. I can see why Brad Paisley plays them. So I've got that. That's a great guitar. I got an amazing reissue custom shop Strat that I bought back in early 2000s. It's incredible. And then I got an awesome Gretsch. They're kind of my faves. I got a bunch of Hamers back in Los Angeles.
I was a Hamer guy for a while. I had a few Hamers. The American ones were great.
Fantastic guitars, and I've still got a bunch. They kind of hooked me up with a lot of guitars because every TV show they were like, play this guitar and keep it, and you're like, yeah. So I got hooked up. I got a bunch of them. I got a nice Les Paul. I got all the gear you'd ever need. I'm trying to actually sell gear to get to downsize a little bit because Bruce keeps telling me, dude, you can only play one guitar at a time. What are you doing?
Yeah. There's different schools because there's many great players like Bruce. Although Bruce is a few now, but he's got Barney's guitar and everything. But a lot of people do play one guitar, but then you have people, like Bill Frisell or someone like that. Every time you see them, they have a different guitar. So I'm kind of in the middle. Like I have a bunch of guitars and I love playing a bunch of guitars, and they're all different. I love all of them. They're also, everyone's just a little different. I play different each one. So that's the thing I love about it.
It is fun because it does brings out a different player in you, I think. And it also, and as getting more into the songwriting world too, you're opening up different songs, potential songs, with each different guitar because they speak to you differently. And I got an old Martin, a 60s Martin that sounds amazing too. And they're all great, man. I like playing. I like jumping around.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's different.
It's fun,
Life's short, man. Play a bunch of nice guitars. Why not, right?
Yeah, I actually I was watching Bukovac and on his video, and he said one day, which resonated with me. He's like, man, I like to swap and sell guitars, and swap them out. If something's sitting there for a while, he said he'd change it and get something new in. I was like, well, why don't I do that? So I started selling some gear, and then whatever I'd sell, I'd replace it with something new and exciting. And
it's fun.
Especially if you're not losing money. If you're not losing money on it, it's kind of like if you make money or it's like a clean, break even kind of thing. Why not?
I always buy used, or at least I get a good deal. And there's certain pieces that I play all the time that it's my main ones, but then other ones they kind of come and go. It's just fun. It's just, it has nothing to do with the playing at all. It's like you're either a great player can play one guitar or whatever, so it's like, it's just, that's just the side of music that's just fun to do. You know, it doesn't have anything to do with your playing or your ability or whatever. It's just for the different sounds and different inspirations and stuff, you know.
Yeah, I think it's fun, you know. So we come out to Nashville here, and I've kind of set myself up with a new studio here, and kind of left my studio in LA, and then I bought an upright piano. So I kind of set this room where I'm at now. I just kind of set up as a songwriter's room, you know, just
Yeah.
tons of guitars, a piano, a little studio, and I'm ready to go.
You're ready to go, man.
I'm
Hey,
ready to go.
I don't want to keep you all night. I really appreciate your time, Troy. Thank you so much, man. I feel like I know you from all these years of listening to Guitar Wank.
Man, I guess I'm gonna take that as that's really cool. I really appreciate that, man, and thank you for asking me, man. I appreciate that as well. You should call Bruce and Scott and say, "Hey, I asked Troy a question."
I will. Well, I had Bruce on here. Bruce and I did one of these.
Oh, you've already done Bruce.
Yeah, it was great. We had a great time, man. And we hung for a while. Like Bruce had some wine, I had some drinks. It was a hang. It was great. We had a great time. And
Man,
I would love to get Scott. I don't know Scott at all. I mean, I don't know if he would do it. I don't have a big name or anything, but you know, Bruce was cool enough to do it. Maybe someday I'll get Scott. Who knows? You know, I don't chase people. They either come here if it either works or it doesn't work, whatever.
you know, then you would have the Guitar Wank trifecta.
That would be great.
Right.
I had the three guys from High Action. Those guys, each one was great. We had a good time.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome, man.
Yeah.
You know, I find that the most interesting part about doing all of this stuff is just the stories and the stuff where you go, oh man, he does that too, or oh, so he's the same as me. Oh my God, or you know, all these different things that we all have in common as musicians. And I love where, you know, Bruce is always pushing community, and this is community, man. We are a kind of a different breed, and we're all dealing with the same shit. We're all like dogging our playing. We want to be better. We want to be that guy. We want to be that guy, you know. But at the end of the day, it's really great that we get together and talk like this and just hang out and shoot the shit, and especially in these times, man, because gigs are few and far between, and it's kind of a crazy world at the moment. But be able to talk like this, I think, is really cool.
Yeah, I get a chance to meet guys like you, so it's been a great opportunity. You know, we got to hang out in real time and in person sometime.
Oh man, that'd be great.
Yeah, when you come back to LA, hit me up, man. I go out. The last month or so in LA, it's been pretty good, man. There's been a lot of shit going on. Like I got like 4 things I want to go to this week, so it's definitely been pretty good, at least in the jazz scene. It's been awesome.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny here in Nashville. I'm still sort of trying to find my feet and where to go and stuff, but there's so many crazy players here. It's insane. So many great players. It's inspiring, you know. It's really inspiring.
You want to be somewhere where you're not the top guy. You want like you were saying when you were in Australia, you were probably maybe the guy for that area.
Well,
you know,
I wish I could say that, but you know what? It's funny where I come from. There's so many freaking great guitar players, and it has a lot to do with Tony Calabro, my teacher, but just something in just where we live, the talent there is ridiculous. I mean, I grew up idolizing all these guys that just were my friends, but they were amazing guitar players. And, you know, I have so many that are great friends to this day, you know, and I left and went and chased the big dream, and they kind of stayed. A lot of them stayed where I grew up.
Yeah.
They're playing more gigs than I am, man, and their talent and their level of musicianship is nothing to joke about. I mean, it's world class.
Yeah,
they're just incredible, and they're in their town doing their thing. And it's like sometimes I'm like, God, man, I would have been, if I stayed home, I would have played more gigs, you know. But
it's totally like that. I'm from South Florida, and I would have my buddies calling me like, you know, I think I'm gonna move to LA, and I'm like, well, what are you doing now? And they're like, you know, I grew up right near Miami. and oh, I'm gigging 5 nights a week at the beach. I'm like, oh, I'm not playing 5 nights a week. Like, you're doing better than I am. Like, why would you come out
Right?
here?
Oh my God. Seriously, when I left Australia, I was gigging, all the time. It was 3, 4 nights a week,
Mhm.
teaching, I was just full on guitar, and I come to America and that all stopped. I become
Yeah,
a student again, and I didn't have any gigs. I didn't gig for years, and it was just weird. And it was
yeah,
so weird how quickly I lost my chops, my live chops. And I used to be able to. I was a lead singer in a band, so I was singing all these songs. You remember words, remember songs. Stop doing that, man. I got a memory like a sieve. It's just like I feel like a beginner when it comes to doing that kind of stuff again. It's like if you're not
yeah,
on the train doing it, you quickly forget. So
yeah. That's how it goes, man. But there's something to be said for being a small fish in a big pond. But eventually, if you can work your way up in the big pond, it's pretty cool, man. And it seems like you're doing a lot. You've done a hell of a lot in LA, so it worked out for you.
I gotta say, man, I feel happy that I survived because LA, she threw everything at me to take me.
She
And
always
I
does.
used to, and to get through it, I used to have this little mind game that I play with myself. I used to think of LA as kind of like this boxer, and me in the ring. I'd be in the ring with her, and she'd be just beating the shit out of me, and I'd go down, and I'd be like Rocky on the ropes. And I'm like, I'm not going to give in. I'm going to get back up, and she'd just hit me down. And in the end, I feel like maybe I didn't kick her ass, but I survived the round. I made it. So now I achieved
You ever
a lot
seen the movie
more.
Raging Bull?
Sorry.
You ever seen the movie Raging Bull?
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember when I forget the fighter's name, De Niro.
Yep.
Damn, what was the guy's name? He goes, he lost the fight, and he goes up to the guy and he goes, "You never knocked me out. You never knocked me out." And the guy, I was like, yes. He's like, "You never knocked me down."
Yeah. Well, that's what I felt like with Los Angeles, man. She came close. There was so many times I was ready to throw in the towel, and yeah, I just wasn't gonna have it.
Good
Just
for you,
wasn't gonna have it.
man. You're a rock star.
Well, I don't know about that, but I had my share. I had my share of fun. It was good, and still more to come. I'm ready to get back out there and do more stuff with my own music. But
You got to do it.
LA was a trip, man. It was a hell of a ride. And now Nashville, I often think, man, I should have come to Nashville years ago because it's such a
Yeah, but you're
great
tougher
city.
now. You're much tougher.
Yeah, well now, it's a little shit changes when you have, an income and you don't have to worry about like that's not your prime source of
Yeah.
worry. You know, I think when you're worrying about the money 24/7, you are a different beast,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
probably have a lot more get up and go, because I know
Yeah.
I did. I had no money. It was do or die. There was no way to fail. It was like, all right, I got to make this work because otherwise I'm gonna be on the street.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's a big factor too. But it is a nice place to be where you're just like, you know what, I can do what I want to do right now and enjoy it and concentrate on what I want to do, like write songs
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff.
Well, you earned it, man. And the next time you come to LA, hit me up. We'll have a beer, or when I come to Nashville, we'll hang out. Either way, we got to meet in
Oh man,
person.
I would love that. And I'm gonna say, Val, thanks for hooking us up, man. I gotta get Val on the show. And
He would love to.
yeah,
He
man,
was telling me he wants to get on there.
yeah, I'm gonna get Val on the show, and he's got some other guys. We're gonna put together a group of guys to have a little like I think a little drinky poos and hang out and just shoot the shit
Yeah.
for a while. I think kind of replicate Guitar Wank back in the studios. But Val, he's been amazing, man, at helping us out in Nashville, and I think the world of him. He's such a great guy.
Yeah, man. Well, I thank you, Val, for putting us together.
Yeah.
And I gotta go to the bathroom, so I gotta cut it.
Man, go shake the snake, mate, and I'll talk to you
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, thank you, Troy. God bless, and good luck with your future projects. And I can't wait to meet you in person, man.
All right, my pleasure, man. I'm buying.
Okay, buddy. Thank you, buddy. We'll see you.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
You too, buddy. Thank